Small Towns, Big People podcast. My name is Joe, and I'm here with Kyle in this sweet ride limo, ready to talk business, life, and anything else that comes up.
We're going around the Midwest looking for small town people who are doing great things. We hope listening to these guests will encourage, inspire, and motivate you to do something great within your town.
Hope you enjoy our next guest.
Welcome back. We're here for another interview with Travis, who's a bunch of things, doing a bunch of really cool stuff in the chef industry, but a lot more than that. So, Travis, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you're doing. And...
Absolutely. So, my name is Travis Teska. I'm one of the chef instructors at North Central Technical College. So, we have a culinary arts program and a butchering program and a hospitality program, all in the same kind of school. We're in the School of Business. So, I'm one of the instructors. There's three of us. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, that's kind of my daily task.
Yeah, so you say a daily task, but like that's actually a whole bunch of there's a bunch of really cool things there. So you're teaching the butcher program though is a little bit different than that. Is it? I mean, it's still teaching, but it's also you're selling the meat. It's almost like a little business of itself, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we're trying to educate people in the butchering world, right? We're trying to fill the need of not enough people who know how to do this anymore. So this came about during COVID. It was found out that there were all these businesses that couldn't take the animals in. You know, they were because of COVID, they didn't have enough staff, or the staff couldn't come in, or whatever. And so we found out that there was this need that there are not enough people who know how to butcher and slaughter animals. So Governor Evers tasked the Wisconsin Technical College system with trying to fix the problem. So he gave a grant out to any of the technical colleges that wanted to start butchering programs, and then I was tasked. My boss came to me at the time and said, "Hey, do you think we should do this?" And I said, "Absolutely, we should do it." And she said, "Great, you're in charge of it." So, kind of got the full force of all the things I didn't know then. Okay. I started off with an investigation. So we talked with butchering businesses in the area and said, "Hey, do you need trained employees?" They were like, "Absolutely." And then we already knew that, Governor Evers had said, like, "Hey, we want people to start their own businesses as well." The pinch point is actually the slaughter, but I'll get to that in a minute. So then I did an investigation. I did a kind of like a needs assessment on, what are we going to need to start this program? What equipment, that kind of stuff. What would it look like? And my boss said, dream big. Go for, something that you think would be really cool. So I designed a cold lab or kind of, I didn't design it. I sketched out a cold lab and said, here's what I think we should do. We should have all of this in the cold lab. And then the big part of the grant was the slaughter is actually the pinch point. So there's lots of places that still cut meat. There are not lots of places that still do the slaughter. So we wanted to incorporate that as well, because that was kind of the whole starting point of the grant.
Is there a reason why that is? People don't like to kill animals, or they?
Well, I don't think anyone likes it. Yeah, it's not pleasant. I mean, you're ending an animal's life, and it's right there in front of you. So you get to witness that. I do it every fall and spring when we're doing the slaughter. It's not something that anyone enjoys, but you have to, if you want to eat meat.
You have to do it.
You kind of have to do it.
Right.
You can't have a robot do it. Like there are some mechanical places that can do some of that, but most of the quadrupeds that we eat, the lambs, the pigs, the beef, are all still hand stunned by a person with a mechanical device, or we use live ammunition because we're doing it on farm. So we created this slaughter trailer, so we call it a mobile harvest unit because people don't like
mobile harvest unit.
People don't like the word slaughter.
Very politically correct.
And we are in education, so we have to be cognizant of optics as well. So it's called a mobile harvest unit. We take that out to a farm. I coordinate it with the farmer ahead of time and figure out, when I need lamb, when I need pork, whatever. And then we go to the farm, and we actually do ours under full state inspections. So I have a state inspector, or this year I had 3 or 4 at every single slaughter, watching every move that we make through the entire process. So a lot of people don't know that meat is inspected. If you buy meat in a grocery store, every single animal is inspected by an inspector, either by the state or the federal government, to make sure it's safe for us to eat. So when you purchase meat, it's all inspected, and we wanted to teach that as well as I wanted to have something to do with all the meat that we got. So we go under the full inspection, so we can still sell our meat, we can still retail it.
Yeah. So the slaughter part is more regulated. Is there more inspection that has to happen on the slaughter, and that's why not many people do it?
So I think
cutting up meat.
Yeah, I think it's all regulated depending on how you want to sell it. So at the school, I wear 3 different inspection hats depending on what I'm doing. So if I'm under slaughter, I'm under state inspection. When we are cutting meat in the lab, I'm under the Marathon County Health Department.
Okay.
Because we cannot wholesale our meat. We can only retail it. So we sell it to final consumers. So you come in and buy a steak and take it home and grill it, you're a final consumer. If you owned a restaurant and you came to me and said, hey, I want to buy a case of steaks, I would have to say, I can't sell it to you. That's wholesale, and that's a different inspection. And that's then I need a state inspector on site whenever we cut. Whenever we cut, right?
Really?
So then that's a whole nother level, and that adds, then you have to have HACCP plans for all your cutting, all your fabrication. So it gets really complicated really fast, for good reason, because meat can get people very sick if it's not done correctly, right?
Okay,
So there's these regulations are not bad. They make total sense. You know, if we go back 100 years and you read
people were
The
dying
Jungle,
from the,
the famous book, Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, you read about that and you go, my God, this is the reason that we have the regulations that we have, is to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, then I'm under different inspections. We can do custom exempt cutting as well. We don't do a lot of that, but that's kind of like where you go to a farm. Let's say you had a steer. I would slaughter it. I would take it back. I'd cut it up, and I'd give it all back to you. That doesn't need any actual inspection. That just, I have to tell the state that I'm doing that, and they might come and see me while I'm doing that. But because it all goes back to one person, there is less likelihood that if there was something wrong, it's only you who's going to get sick. So you got to, when you understand where the meat's going to go, the regulations make a lot more sense. Because the more shotgun effect of where it can go, the more regulation needs to happen to make sure that it's safe for all the people who might get it, versus if one family got it, you'd know pretty fast something was wrong, and it wouldn't go out to 100 households, right? So that's where the regulations come into play.
Okay, sidebar.
Yeah, sidebar. We
Sidebar.
got off on a sidebar.
No, well, are we? I think
the inspection is actually kind of fun.
It's
once
better
you
to do
understand
that
it.
anyways. Nobody wants to hear a straight train of thought.
Yeah,
We want
exactly.
sidebar.
Perfect. Great.
Okay, so you also run a restaurant through your teaching program.
Correct.
Right? The restaurant
Correct.
is run. So now, you said you can't retail it, or
We can't
wholesale
it.
So what about your restaurant?
We can sell it in the restaurant because it's under
you're
the
the same umbrella.
inspection. Yep.
Awesome.
So our meat lab is licensed under our restaurant.
Got it. Okay.
So the culinary arts department is inspected by the Marathon
Yep.
County Health Department, and that whole thing, meat cutting and the restaurant is all under.
And so, just so everybody knows, the restaurant
It's called Spoons.
is Spoons, but it's a very nice restaurant.
Well, thank you.
Right? It's high end. It's really nice food, and it costs almost nothing.
Yeah,
Because
so-
apparently you guys can't make any money doing it.
So we're
Right?
not supposed. So when you step back a minute, we're in education. We're not a business, right? So in education, the product, the profit is successful graduates. It's not money, right?
Yep.
So it's not that we don't care about the money, but that isn't the first goal. Unlike a business, is always to make profit, right? So that's not our first goal. Our first goal is to provide education.
I think
and
we're going to
successful-
argue about that later. But okay.
All right.
Keep going.
So we want to cover our costs. So we try to be as cost neutral as we can. We also want to be very careful that we're not taking business away from the people who are going to hire our graduates. So when our graduates go out into the world, they need jobs. And if we have a really successful restaurant and we pull all the lunch business, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So that's the second reason, is that we do not want to be a competitor. We want to give our students real hands-on experience without being a competitor to the people who are going to hire them. Right?
I can see. Yeah, I can see that. That makes a lot more sense actually when you explain that part, because
Yeah, because the
If
businessman
you
in
guys
me
are-
wants to
if
be like,
you guys
why
are-
wouldn't you guys make
Yeah.
money at it?
I know.
We got to be
I
careful.
know,
right?
and that's what
Yeah,
I've always said. Is like,
Yeah.
so Dave and I argued about like, why in the heck are they not charged? But then it's like, why aren't they advertising? Why aren't they out there everywhere? Like, there's a reason for
Yep.
that. You guys don't. Yeah, that makes more sense.
And then
okay,
the advertising piece.
then maybe
comes
we won't
to-
argue about
yeah.
that later.
The advertising piece comes to as well is we don't want our students to drink from the fire hose. They'll have their
Oh.
whole careers to drink from the fire hose when they have, a 300 person night.
Yeah.
We want to give
Sure.
them good hands-on experience. We
Yeah.
want them to have a little bit of stress, but we don't want them to have the full craziness of a restaurant kitchen until they're ready. Right? Again, education. We're not trying to turn them into soldiers overnight. We're trying to bring them up. Bring them up so they can be successful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Awesome. So let's see. Where were we at before? So we've got butcher. So talk a little bit about the cold lab. What does that mean?
So I named it the cold lab. So I just started calling it the cold lab because it's a lab is a learning environment. Our culinary kitchens are technically labs too. That's just the school's designation for a classroom that has like hands-on learning and like machinery or something like that. Right? It's a lab. So I just started calling the cold lab because it's cold. So it's a 1,300 square foot walk-in cooler. It's basically one giant walk-in cooler, and we keep it I like to keep it as cold as possible. So I'm usually in discussions with the facilities department to negotiate how cold I can get it because they were worried about pipes freezing and infrastructure and things like that. And I'm like, I don't care. That's your problem. I just want the meat cold. So we usually keep it about 36, 37. Right
Yeah,
now it's
it was
probably
very
hovering
cold
more
when
like
I was there.
34 because it's cold out, so it's easy to keep it cold. So it's just one giant walk-in cooler. In that cooler, we have it designed to have all the pieces of equipment that people would see in the meat processing world or an example of them, but generally they're a lot smaller. Again, I'm not trying to produce 20,000 pounds of meat a week or 50,000 pounds of meat a week. We're cutting up a couple of each carcass and making ham and bacon and sausage and things like that. So it's almost more about a hands-on demonstration for them to get a little piece of each thing so they understand it. So we have a smoker, we have a bowl chopper, we have a grinder, we have a bandsaw, we have a slicer, we have a brining station, we have a vacuum tumbler, we have the stuffing station for the sausages and that kind of stuff, right? And we have a vacuum machine to vacuum pack everything. So it's just kind of like a miniature. I found this company called Ultrasource, and they make equipment for huge meat manufacturing facilities, and they can make a vacuum machine bigger than this car, right? That can do thousands of packages a minute. We have one that does 4 packages every 15 seconds, right? So they just need to understand the processes. They don't. Some of that they have to learn on the job, right? It's kind of the same as the culinary students, cooking 300 steaks. I can't provide that education, but I can provide you how to cook a steak, and then you go out in the industry and get good at it. So yeah, so that's the cold lab. Attached to the cold lab is our little butcher counter. It's called Butcher Block, and that's a little retail space where we do sell our product. I want to mimic the customer experience, so I want my students to get customer interaction and actually talk with people and help them. And I teach my butchering students some basics of cooking because I think a good butcher should be able to describe what to do with the cut of meat, right? So like everyone knows how to cook a ribeye, right? So that's easy. But on every steer, there's only so many ribeyes, right? And then there's 800 pounds of other cuts
the extra stuff,
that everyone's like, I want steak. Well, of course, everyone wants steak, but there's all these other beautiful cuts that if we train people and teach people what to do with them are just as tasty or sometimes arguably better if they know how to cook them. So I give them a little bit of cooking experience so they can describe how to cook these cuts to their customers.
Although I think you need to teach your culinary students how to turn the entire pig into bacon.
Yeah, not possible.
Yes, it is. No, I came up with a process. Okay, so we'll talk about that another day.
All right.
But yeah, aha, whole pig into bacon.
Not actual bacon.
No, it would be bacon. They count bacon. That bacon is such a loose term. There's turkey bacon and there's chicken
none of that
bacon.
is bacon.
But
None
they
of that
say
is
it's
bacon.
bacon. It has the word
Venison
bacon.
bacon.
I would
in it.
argue that none of that is
Okay,
bacon. That's
so-
all just sausage.
So we're in the politically correct world. It counts as bacon. So I can make the whole pig bacon.
Okay. Well, fine. And I would say, oh, cool, you made smoked sausage. Good
Yes,
job.
exactly.
Yeah,
Sliced
good job.
like bacon, looks like bacon, but
Does not taste like bacon.
but
Doesn't
if
have
it's
the
all
texture
pig,
of bacon.
it will. It will. Okay. So I think we kind of got into some stuff. Let's tell us a little bit more about your background.
Sure. Yeah.
How did you? How did you get to this? But like, where did you? Why are you into cooking and
Okay.
and chefing
So,
and whatever that's called?
I've been cooking since I could walk. My grandma was my babysitter when I was a kid. I went to work. My dad worked for my grandpa. I went to work with my dad. My grandma watched me during the day while my parents were at work, and my grandma cooked a lot. She was a farmer's wife and like so had lots of cooking and baking, and so I would like drag this chair over the stove and cook my grandpa's eggs in the morning, and just that was 4 years old. So I've been cooking for 38-ish years. So just always loved being in the kitchen. My grandma was amazing and was very patient with me and would let me, make messes and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started working at restaurants when I was in high school. I went to culinary school. I went to Johnson Wales University in Denver, Colorado. I did my internship out east at the Canyon Ranch Health Spa. I originally had kind of wanted to get into more of the R&D area. And then I had an awesome...
Wait. What does R&D mean?
Research and development.
In cooking? Like, cooking's been around forever. What is research and
think about, like, craft foods, right? And they come up with a new frozen dinner. There's a chef that makes that and figures out how to make it taste good and freeze well and all of that. And that was kind of originally my original career goal was to do R&D.
Isn't that like McDonald's, Wendy's, like all of those big
any food that you buy that's already made has been designed by an R&D person. Yeah. And they test it. You might make the same lasagna 20 times and tweak one ingredient each one.
Sure.
And then and then freeze it and then thaw it and cook it and see what happens and see which one worked the best. And then you'd scale it up and they make like 50 of them the same way. And then you take it to your industrial people and be like, how do we make 5,000 of these a day? Right? And how do we maintain the quality or
not, but just get it out.
Right, exactly. right. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough, right. So that was kind of the original plan, but then I had an amazing opportunity to be an executive chef right out of culinary school at a restaurant in Marshfield called Castelloma Fine Dining and Bistro. I knew the owner. I worked there in high school. I came back after culinary school, and her chef was going on vacation, and kind of, there's a long story that doesn't matter. I watched his kitchen for 2 weeks while he was on vacation, and at the end of the 2 weeks, the owner just pulled me in the office and said, how much money do you want and when can you start? I want you to run my restaurant. So I threw out a big old number that kind of I thought would scare her away, and she was like, cool, yeah, done, let's do it. And I was like, okay, so then you can't turn down cool opportunities. So I moved back here. I was the chef there for about 2 years, and then her and I decided to start another restaurant here in Wausau called The Right Place on 6th, which was a fine dining restaurant in an Italianate home, actually 4 blocks away from us right now.
Down there.
Right down the street from here. It's ironic I live right up the street from it now.
So little sidebar on that. So Angela and I moved here, I can't remember how many years ago now, but it was we went out for, I think it was an anniversary dinner, and we couldn't find, that was the first place that we went. There was this big golden harp in the corner, and
we had a harp player play most nights.
Yep. And so it was like really nice, and we'd gone to some nice places in Eau Claire. We didn't have a lot of money, but like we do one thing real nice once a year.
Anniversary.
Yep. And that was one of the first ones we did, and we didn't know you at all. But like later on, like we hear, Travis, like, wow, that was really good. It was a really nice place. It was really, and I don't know of any place that really meets that bill here in town right now.
Well, thanks. I'll let you say that. That sounds great.
Right. Yeah. So I think there is. Yeah. Well, keep going.
Yeah. So then I worked there for 5 years with the intention of actually purchasing the restaurant from the owner. When that time came, we kind of butted heads on how much we each thought it should cost. And we were too far apart to ever come to an actual agreement. She ended up selling it to another chef, and I left. Obviously, he was not going to need me because he was a chef. So he ran it his own way. He did not do well with it. He was an amazingly talented chef, but he did not listen to what his customers wanted. He did not listen to what I told him people in Wausau liked. He wanted to do his own thing, and kind of everything else he didn't care about. And he ran it into the ground in just a few months. It was really fast. Sad.
Yeah, it was gone.
It was
really
gone
quick.
Really quick.
Yeah, really quick.
So
now it's a wellness or some.
and now
weird
it's
thing.
like a
not
mental health,
restaurant at all.
counseling agency. Yeah, they actually hired me to come in and cook a dinner for all the people that they, like when they bought it and turned it into that, they said, we want you to come and cook a dinner. So it was fun. I cooked the first meal and the last meal out of that kitchen.
Neat.
Because the day after I cooked that meal, they ripped the kitchen
They ripped
out.
it all
and
out.
was gone.
Oh my goodness,
So
yeah.
it's kind of, it was a good closure for me.
Yeah.
So then I actually worked in automotive for a while. I did finance and sales, and I sold cars for a while. And I did financing.
You
for a
know,
couple
I can
years.
see you being a car salesman.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. One thing that everyone should know about if you sell cars or you do anything in the automotive world is you can't care if people like you.
Ha.
Because everyone hates you.
Yeah.
Even if you're a good person, I
It's
consider
true.
myself a pretty good
I
person.
do agree with that.
And
yeah,
I
it's
would
very
have
true.
people like who wouldn't shake your hand and just really petty, awful, and it's really hard to, as someone who needs to be liked, I like to be liked.
Yeah.
It was really, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. But it paid the bills. It got me through a couple years until I found the right position, and then that's when NTC hired me to start the culinary program. So I was the first hire on for the program. I wrote all the first year curriculum. I picked out the textbooks. I designed the kitchens. I picked out the uniforms. I mean, I started the culinary program, and then in our first year, we hired on Chef John. Chef John wrote the second year. He helped kind of get Spoons launched and work on some other projects there at school. And then right before COVID, we had an amazing enrollment, and so we actually hired Chef Brock because we were going to do 2 sections. And Chef Brock has helped with, he started the entire hospitality program. So we have a 2-year associates in culinary arts, a 2-year associates in hospitality, and a 1-year certificate in butchering. So Chef Brock did the whole hospitality program, or a lot of it. Chef John helped with that too. I started culinary, and then Chef John helped me kind of progress that in, and then I started the butchering program with a little bit of help. I mean, we all work.
So
as
they're
a
all
team.
still there. You haven't had any turnover at all.
No, we used to have an assistant that we had to eliminate the assistant to get the third chef. So we had like a culinary assistant, which is like a lab assistant. They like help set up the rooms and do the ordering and put the orders away and kind of like some of the like sous chef duties traditionally. And so now we just split those up between the 3 of us.
Okay, can you tell me? I've probably could read it on Google or something, but like, talk to me about like that. The sous chef response. Like, what is a sous? I don't understand what a sous chef is.
Okay.
Why aren't they a chef?
Assistant manager.
They're not a chef, but they are a chef. Like a lot of times they're a chef, but they're not. They're not in charge yet.
Chef has lost some of its meaning, I think, in the last 10 years.
Okay.
Because now, if you put a chef coat on, you're a chef. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
not really...
So I can just buy that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you
All right.
could,
Same with a black belt in Taekwondo.
Exactly,
Like you can just buy them.
yeah.
They're
So-
online.
Sadly, yeah. So chef is a title that's earned. It usually means that you've worked your way up to the top position in the kitchen, and you're the leader of all of it, right? So a chef is think of it as the general in the army, right? Like they're in charge of everything. And traditionally, kitchens were run very militaristic, right? So the chef is the top level person, and then a sous chef it means sous in French means under, so it just means under chef.
Oh.
So it's the
Okay.
second in command. It's the whatever is
Okay.
under a general. I'm not a military guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever's under next, and then you'd have your line cooks or whatever. So in a huge kitchen, think about like a hotel with 5 different restaurants. There's an executive chef that would probably never even live in a kitchen anymore. They're going to do all administrative and budgeting and that kind of stuff. And then they'd have chef de cuisines, and a chef de cuisine would be in charge of like each restaurant or the banquet facility or something like that. And then underneath the chef de cuisine would be sous chefs. So like at the health spa when I worked there was an executive chef, there was a couple chef de cuisines, and then there were like 10 sous chefs. And then each sous chef was in charge of all the line cooks, and that was like me, it's like a line cook or prep cook or something like that.
Huh.
So it's just an organizational
Yeah.
structure
Yeah,
for the
yeah, yeah.
kitchen, yeah.
Okay,
Escoffier,
got it.
Chef Escoffier is actually one who created it's called the brigade, the kitchen
Oh my
brigade.
goodness, it's all French,
So
isn't
it's
it?
all
Brigade.
French.
Yeah, we should come up with something better that's
Everything
American.
is French, yeah. The French kind of had it down. Yeah, they kind of did a really good job of it like 400 years ago.
Yeah.
So they
yeah.
kind
But,
of
I mean, we
they
should-
did it when they cooked for kings, right?
But don't you
So,
think we can do it better?
I mean, we
Okay,
do.
come on,
we
let's
do.
move on.
It's the modern American way.
You got to
right?
give the French
Um,
cooking. They got,
Okay,
Yeah.
Not much else,
Yeah,
so-
yeah. They got it.
so I know this is a little bit different than like a traditional business that we talked with, right?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
So when you are looking at I think you mentioned this a little bit. What does success look like? If you look at this program or what you're doing every day, like you want to, how do you know you've done a good job?
Yeah. Okay. So success. Well, first of all, if I still have a job, then it's successful.
Okay.
The school
Yep.
wouldn't keep us
Okay.
around if we didn't have
Sure.
jobs, right? So we're not there for fun, right? We're not just pretty faces. So our graduates have to be successful. So they go out, they get jobs, they report back and say, yes, my education was worthwhile. I got a good education at NTC, and then now we've been around long enough to start asking some of our graduates back to help. So they are on our advisory committee meeting. So all the programs at NTC are run by an advisory committee. So we don't get to just make blanket decisions that affect the final education of the student. The advisory committee tells us if what we're doing is correct. So our advisory committee is made up of like 5 people who own or run or chefs or work at restaurants, right? And we meet with them twice a year and we tell them what we're doing and they tell us if that sounds good or not, right? So we don't just make it up. The advisory committee actually tells us, yes, those are the kind of graduates, these are the kinds of skills that we want, these are the kind of graduates that we want, and yes, you guys are doing it, right? And then and we report back to them. So so those are my dean is my boss, and the advisory committee is kind of my dean.
Do you get input into that, or it's
from the advisory committee meeting? Yes.
But do you get to input into the advisory committee? Do you say here's my vision, here's what I'd like to see happen?
Yes, absolutely, right. And then they say, yeah, that sounds great, or they go, well, maybe we need to think about this, right? Like, and we've made, if we change a class, it has to get approved by the advisory committee meeting. So, like, say we wanted to get rid of, one was when we first started, we had a cake decorating class, and it was good, and we had some students that were successful from it, but it always seemed like we were short on time, and we looked at it and went like, man, if we get rid of this class, we have all these other time that we can use. And so we went to the advisory committee and we said, hey, we have this cake decorating class. We've had some students that really liked it and some that worked at bakeries, but we kind of want to get rid of it and we want to do this instead. And then they had to tell us, yes, that sounds good, or no, you shouldn't do that. And they approved it.
Okay.
Right. So that's just one example of something that we would do.
Does your advisory committee always maintain like the same people, or do you rotate out?
We
different
rotate them
business
out
owners
every
and-
couple years. Yeah, we try to rotate out. We struggle to get people who are really consistent for our advisory committee. So the restaurant industry is notorious for people who are busy, right? So they work 80-hour weeks, and it's really hard to get them to come to school for 2 hours and listen to us talk about it. So it's kind of, through the years, we've kind of cycled through and went like, oh, you're a restaurant owner, you're a manager, you're a chef, and we get them for a little while, and then they leave, and then we get another one, and we get them. We have a couple members that have been really consistent, and then we have a couple that kind of cycle through. So if you know anybody who wants to be on it, for culinary especially, we're definitely we struggle to get people who want to come and give their input. Right?
Okay.
So maybe after Joe gets that chef's coat from Amazon,
Yeah, then I could
right.
come and I could just tell you guys what to do. That'd be great.
Right,
I would love that.
I would love that.
I would really enjoy
whole pig
getting to tell everyone.
whole pig
at
bacon
NTC.
course.
Yeah.
Whole pig bacon 101, whole pig bacon 102, and whole
Sausage
pig bacon
making,
supplementary classes. Yeah.
smoking sausage.
Okay, so success. So success. I mean, I would assume.
So success is our graduates. First of all, graduating, right? So we don't like when people don't graduate. There are some examples of times where people graduate and get good jobs, and of course that's good for them. But as a school, we don't really like that because our success metric is, did they graduate, right? So
Yeah.
so we like them to graduate. We call that jobbing out, where they job out, they get a great job.
Okay.
So they come to a year of culinary
And
school,
they-
they get hired as a chef, they go out and work, and they have a great job. The problem with that is it's usually short-sighted.
Yeah.
So they have this good job now, but in 5 years,
They
their
don't
boss
have
is
that
going to
degree
say,
and-
yeah, like, hey, do you have this experience that you can do, or do you have this information? Especially corporations, a lot of times want that degree behind them, and they're like, well, no, I didn't finish because you hired me, and like, oh, well, we're going to get someone else. So you have to try to a light line there of like trying to educate the student, like, hey, don't be short-sighted, like, finish your education, work with your employer to finish this well you can, because you're never going to come back, right? Like, when they leave, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's hardly anything ever come back and actually finish, because it's difficult, right? Once you're out working It's not going to happen, right? That's going to be very difficult. So we want our students to graduate, and then we want them to have jobs in industry. Like, you know, it's not a success when they graduate and then they go sell cars, right? Like, that's not a good thing, right? We want them to be in our industry in some fashion of that. And then we want them to get paid well, right? And so education is the great equalizer. It's supposed to build everybody up and give everyone more opportunity. And so we want our students to be able to advocate for themselves and say, like, hey, I have this education, I have this knowledge, I'm worth more than $10 an hour, right? And to do that. So now we've been around long enough that we have data on that, and I can't speak to it off the top of my head, but we have data that shows where our graduates went, how much money they make, right, and all of that kind of stuff. And we have some very successful graduates that we're pretty proud of. The chef at Van Acre, pretty much the whole kitchen at Wausau Country Club, the bakery manager at Helene's. So we've had a couple of them that work at nursing homes, which is actually a great job because it's like a state job. Better schedule. It's not glamorous, right? Yeah. But it's a really important need, and that used to be not a very good paying job, but they now are paying really well too because they need the people, and they want people who understand the sanitation and understand that, you know, the importance of good quality food, and right, like it's kind of I would say that's a pretty noble cause, and we have a couple graduates doing that too. So that's what, you know, success would look like for us. I'm sure my boss would say, like, we also want to stay in budget. Culinary is a very expensive endeavor. It's why you don't see a lot of private culinary schools be successful anymore, because it's unbelievably expensive to operate. I jokingly say with my boss occasionally, like, it's just a dump truck full of money. You bring us a dump truck full of money, and then we educate these students with it, and then and it's not that I'm trying to be flip. I'm a taxpayer. I'm always respectful of funds, but it's expensive. I mean, and then now we all know, because we all go to the grocery store, food is more expensive. It's more expensive for us too, right? Yeah. So that's where the butchering program is cool. So we butcher our own hogs, our own lambs, our own beef, and then we use all that in the culinary program. So that kind of helps offset some costs, things like that. So we make our own stocks. We cut our own fish. You know, so while we're teaching the students how to do this, we get the benefit of using all that product back. So we save where we can, but it's not a cheap thing to do.
Even the restaurant has to offset some of the costs as well.
Right. So then the restaurant gets to sell so we get to sell some of that product back. Absolutely. Yep. So that all helps with budgeting. Yep.
Okay, so you mentioned the butcher program and all that, Governor Evers or whatever. Like, so there's a grant.
The grant money, the grant money for the So the grant money for the butchering program has like two arms to it. One was to the college to help offset the cost of starting the program, right? Like building out the space,
buying all the equipment,
and if you thought culinary equipment was expensive, when you get into butchering, you can double it again. So like I have a $30,000 bowl chopper. Like they're just, everything you look at is, nothing is cheap. You can't buy anything for less than $1,000. So it's crazy expensive, and I bought small equipment, right? I bought like these little lab versions of each thing, and they're still, it's crazy expensive. So that grant helped offset MTC's cost, so it isn't being paid for directly by MTC, right? Yeah. It's paid for by this grant money, right? Okay. The second arm of that grant is it covers tuition, which is really amazing. So right now, and I believe they got it approved for next year yet, there's still enough money left. My butchering students, and our butchering program, by the way, is called Pasture to Plate. So my Pasture to Plate students don't have to pay for tuition. They buy a pair of boots, and there's like an $80 lab fee, and that is the only thing that costs them money. We bought the books, we bought the knives, we bought everything with that grant money. So when they come in, I give them a book to use. When they're done with the semester, they give me the book back, right? So they don't have to buy anything. We rent the butcher coats for them to wear. So they don't pay for anything. Now that's unique. That is, so you're not
bribing
typical.
people to become butchers.
Well, the government is bribing people to become butchers because they know it's a need. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I guess you could say bribe.
I think that's a
incentivizing might be a better, a nicer
So I think that's a very common theme, though. Butchering, plumbers, electricians. Yeah. Generally, any of the traditionally skilled trades don't seem to, like, everybody wants to be a YouTube influencer, and like if we all are, we're all gonna die. And so,
yeah,
like,
and
I
we're all
get
gonna
it.
have houses that don't have safe electrical or plumbing.
Yeah,
We're not gonna
yeah.
have good food to eat.
And
Absolutely.
yep.
Absolutely.
And like Pelkin's Smoky Meats over in Green Bay, they're huge. They do the Rush Center. They do all this stuff. Started off as a little butcher shop in Crivets.
Absolutely.
They have a line of people every deer season. They put in like a multi-million-dollar deer cutting facility just for that specific thing in their Crivets location, and they're done taking deer by noon every day.
Yep.
I can't believe how many
Because
people
they don't have
even
enough
cut
cutters to do it.
and people
Yeah.
don't cut their own
Not
deer
enough
anymore.
people. Right, I know.
Yep.
That's-
Yeah, I taught a class this year on how to cut deer. We partnered
yeah.
with the DNR and taught a class on how to process deer right before deer hunting. And the people who came were like, "Wow, this is great! Like I've done it before, but now there's some other things that I can really do better, right?
Mhm.
Like that."
Yeah, my dad always cut his deer
honestly,
up.
it's not that hard. Let's
So-
be honest. It's
So my
it's not
well,
really that difficult.
well, okay, but my dad always cut our deer, and I would always help him. And so he died last year, and we got 3 deer, but I didn't have time to do it. So we sent him to a butcher shop, and what we got back was not what I wanted. It was not even close. It was so much different than. And so I butchered our deer this year, and it's exactly what it's so much better when you do it yourself.
Absolutely. And
It's
cheaper.
incredible. Well, it's cheaper, yeah, but it wasn't really that expensive for a deer. But what I got was so weird to me. It was so strange. Just like such a different, I don't know, different mindset,
Well,
or
and
maybe
it's
it's
very
efficiency,
personal.
or maybe
It's
yeah,
very personal
exactly.
on how you cut up an animal, especially like deer. Everyone has the way their dad did it or their grandpa did it, and so when someone does it different, it's weird.
Like no, that's
It's
wrong.
so
I don't
weird,
want.
yeah. Even
I
though
don't,
it's
I don't
not
want my
wrong,
steak. No,
it's
we
wrong
can
to
still
you,
eat it. But
right?
yeah,
Like,
it's
it's
totally
wrong
wrong.
to you. Absolutely.
And it really gets weird when you start talking about like the sausages, the meat sticks, the jerky.
Yes.
Like those recipes are so different.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go to what you'd make yourself or
Yeah.
what you buy. Like
I find it hilarious when people make their own, and without, I don't want to sound like a jerk here, but venison bacon is one that is.
And I'm
it's
going to make
horrible.
some of that real
It's
soon.
horrible.
Here.
It's
No.
not bacon.
No, but it is.
It's not bacon.
But it is.
it's delicious.
It's summer sausage, right?
And
It's
then
summer
fried
sausage.
up crispy like bacon.
But you could just make summer sausage and do that.
You could.
Why does it have to be the shape of bacon?
Because when it's thin, it crisps up better.
But you can cut summer sausage thin. It's not bacon. Bacon comes from the belly.
So I'm on
That's
the
it.
Look, I'm on the starvation diet right now, and I can't eat pork bacon, but I can have the fake bacon. So I could have Benny bacon. I could
Why
have
can't you have
turkey
pork
bacon.
bacon?
Because it's the starvation diet. So you got
I
to
don't
do
know what
that.
the starvation
Yeah, I
diet
know.
is.
You're lucky.
I don't pay attention to all the fad diets because they all
It's
drive
not
me
a
crazy.
fad. My wife's been making me do it for years now, and
Okay.
obviously it's not working.
Well, which is why I don't pay attention
Exactly.
to fad diets.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
perfect.
Now
There
we're
we
getting
go.
there. All right.
Back circle there.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
cool.
Okay, so finances. So like when we're talking about money, like are you in the money or is somebody else? The school, did you write any of the grant? Are you managing that money or?
So
are you
I
just
did the
requesting?
initial investigation, which means I called Ultrasource and got like a very casual quote on how much each piece of equipment costs, and then I gave my best guess on how much I thought it would cost to like get the walk-in cooler and that kind of stuff, and then I put all that together in a spreadsheet and I sent it to my dean.
Okay.
I know I'm not directly involved in any of the financial decisions at that level. Now purchasing on like a weekly basis as we need food for the kitchens or things like that. We do that as a team. This year, Chef John is in charge of ordering. We kind of rotate through that. That way, it isn't always the same person making the same decisions, and it sucks.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like the worst part of the job.
Okay.
So it also we kind of rotate through on
That
who
sounds
has the
like
most time.
something an intern should do.
Oh God, you want an intern in charge of ordering thousands of dollars?
Well, I don't know
for
if it sucks like that's the job you
tax
get.
dollars.
Yeah.
No, that's
Well-
actually really important to make sure that we're being
You don't-
respectful
you don't
of the
have the
budget,
intern.
right?
Okay, got it.
So no, that's definitely a top level decision making.
Uh-huh,
Yeah, that'd
yeah.
be like you would want to make those decisions for your business. 'cause it's
So I
how
think
much
it's
money
funny
we're
because
talking
when
about.
you talk about being a chef and you talk about these big chefs in these big areas, big companies, they're not chefs anymore. And like they're because they're doing the finances, they're doing the budget, they're tracking the numbers.
But
and
that
like,
actually is what a chef does.
well, correct. But they're
So-
not in the kitchen cooking anymore. And
No.
that's what I think of when I think of chef.
But
I
they're
think
training
of, well, they're-
people on how to cook.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, so
I know,
so
but it's not what I think of.
No, well, it's
And-
not. Yeah, but that is what a chef does.
Yep.
Right? That is exactly what a chef.
And
does.
actually, every aspect of business, every type of company, it's the same thing. So like you start out, you're a single guy doing your thing, and like I'm starting my little mom and pop restaurant. Oh, I started my little mom and pop plumbing shop. Oh, I'm doing contracting on the side. Okay, great. It's you. You're doing everything. You're doing it all. But like as you grow and as the company gets bigger, the person that's in charge is less and less likely to actually be the one doing the thing anymore.
Doing the hands-on work.
Doing the hands-on work.
Correct. Absolutely.
And for a lot of people, they don't understand that. And so like starting your business, you're going to be hands-on all the time. But if you want to scale your business and grow it into something that's more, whether you're a restaurant, whether you're turning into, like I've turned into a person manager right now. Like I don't really do anything anymore. I just manage people. I'm like, hey, no, don't. Like,
that
oh,
is
you're
doing
upset. Why?
something.
No,
That
it
is
is.
something.
It is. But you have to really think about what you're doing and decide, like, do I even want that executive chef position?
Or
Because I'm not going to cook ever again.
You can, if you're the owner, you can hire someone to do it.
Yep.
Right. Like you can hire a manager to do the management part that you don't want to do, and you can still be in the kitchen. The problem with that is you have to very much trust that manager,
Correct.
and
And
know
that's
that
where a
they're
lot
gonna
of
make the
people get
decision.
in trouble.
Right.
Right. That when you let someone else run your business, your thing, and then it fail, and then why did you screw that? Well, you let me screw it up. Like that's your fault.
Right.
And so it becomes hard. So like I think that's one of the things that is difficult for people that are scaling and growing their companies to realize that like you want to go to a certain point, great, but anything past that, like you become a different kind of person. You're a different kind of manager, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it seems like you're kind of in that kind of a blend of that, but like you're kind of in that stage.
I'm super blessed because I still get to cook every day.
Right.
Right. Because I get to cook with my students every day, and I'm not in the chef world. I'm not the same as a chef who's running a hotel, because I'm educating people.
Right.
Right. Now, the chef who's running a hotel is certainly educating people too, because the secret of a good chef is you're always training people to come up, because you always need, again,
Yeah, but that's a
it's
general
that
business thing, right?
Absolutely.
The guy that's in charge should be able to do that to everything,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep. So
Isn't that why it's so important too in the chef world? Which kitchens you've come from, like what chefs you've worked with,
where you've learned from. Yeah.
Like that's
Absolutely.
kind of stock and trade.
Yeah, every
and-
time you work in a different kitchen, you pick up little things that someone else did that might be good, that might be not good, and then you mash all that together as you grow, and you get, all of your experiences come together. Absolutely. I would agree completely. Yeah. I think that's one of those things that why when people work for like really famous chefs, they want to talk about it, because I worked under, whoever it is, because, Pierre White, right? Like, because then that's like, what Pierre White knows, right? And then like you can use that in your whatever. So I think there's valid points there. But you're absolutely right. You're always doing that in any business, because you need a continual stream of good employees, right? Because you're always going to lose some.
Right. And do you like to manage people, or do you just want to cook, right? There's a balance there. And me as the kind of person I am, I have a hard time like seeing both sides of those ideas. Like, no, I want to be in charge. Like, I'm always in charge. I want to be in charge. Not everybody wants that.
No, I was very blessed, even at the right place. I was a working chef. It was a small enough restaurant that I managed from the line, right? So I still was on the cooking line every night. I ran my own station, and I managed the kitchen from that station. And I was blessed because I love cooking, right? So I want to be in cooking. I think it makes you, if you have the opportunity to do that as a chef, I think it makes you really, like, you have a really strong bond with your team, right? Because then you're not just barking orders. You're in the trenches with them, right? And for me, it was also how I controlled quality. I was right there. I was producing a third of the quality, right? So I knew all of the stuff coming off my station was good, and then I could keep an eye on.
And you could take a peek over there.
Exactly, kind of like, and a lot of chefs do that from the other side of the line, where they expo everything, and everything is perfect before it goes out of the kitchen. We were too small for an expo, so I expoed and ran a saute station, and like that was one of those things you just keep putting on another hat at a time until you're.
But I think that's another principle that, you don't give just free reign for your people. You train them, you talk to them, we work, but working together. So I found that it's sometimes where my companies are growing, and when I was absent, or when I was doing, book work or office work, or not out there, and then I would go out on the job site, and like I would be up on the roof, and like, what the heck is he doing on the roof? And they kind of get scared, and then it, and we'd work a little bit, and then they'd be comfortable, and then and I'd be yelling about this, and we'd change that, and we'd adjust the quality to be what I thought it was supposed to be,
Right.
and then they know how to do it, and then it's all done that way more. And like those are really good things. So like that's the best part I think about the small business, that you can get in there. And the biggest challenge for a growing business to keep the quality, to maintain that without the guy that's in charge being out there on the roof or on the line or doing that.
Yeah, because eventually you're going to run out of time, energy, or
Yep.
ability to do
You're gonna
it.
hate
right?
your life.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
or it's just not actually possible.
It
right?
isn't.
Like,
Yep.
it just comes to a point where it's not
Yep.
physically possible to
Right.
do it. Right? You can't be
Yep.
on all the job sites, or you can't look at every dish coming out of the kitchen.
Okay.
Eventually, you have to have layers of management that you can trust that will handle that for you. Right?
Okay, so our next discussion point is this residual income discussion. I like residual income. I want to talk about it every time. Residual income to me, unless you have millions of dollars in the bank account, then you have built-in residual income, because you can just invest that passively, collect those money, and you don't have to do anything. You can just sit on the couch and watch TV if you want.
Yeah. Right.
But those of you that don't have the millions of dollars in the bank account and don't have that, like, getting a residual income stream, it's a passive income stream. And traditionally, we've always done that through the stock market by investing your 401k, and there you go. And retire when you're 65, 70, what is it, 84 now? I don't know what it is.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, and so I like the discussion around all the businesses and all the, like, how do we turn that residual? And so, like, in the restaurant industry, how does a business owner of a restaurant, how do they take I'm there 40, 80, 100 hours a week, and make that at least maybe more residual, if not make it fully? How do they do that? What's the model for that?
So I think, speaking from what I've seen and what I've helped with in a restaurant, is that's when you look at ways to bring in more income outside of what your normal restaurant does. So let's use my restaurant that I used to run, The Right Place, right? So we were a fine dining restaurant. We had a kitchen. We had 65 seats or 70 seats in the house, right? And that's what the kitchen could produce for, right? But around the holidays, we did caterings, right? Now that the kitchen is now doing more work, we're not changing anything about the dining room, but we're bringing in more money for work that just went out the back door, right? So that's another income stream that you can kind of get into. So catering can be very lucrative. Catering is an amazing opportunity, and Wausau definitely has opportunities for caterers. The problem is they're inconsistent, so it's really hard to start a catering business, because you're going to have business and not business and business, and that's really difficult in a kitchen, because if you're not selling food, you're throwing it away. And then now think of like the ghost kitchen stuff that kind of happened during COVID too, right? Like, so, you know, if I was still running that restaurant, I'd maybe have like a second menu that I only sold out the back door to like Uber driver, or what is it called? Uber Eats and all of that, Eat Street, and I don't know, you know what I'm talking about. Where like maybe I did something totally different. Like one of my passions in cooking is Indian food. So maybe if I still had a restaurant, maybe I'd have an Indian restaurant that only sold food to go for delivery, and then only sold it out of the back door of the kitchen. And I just cooked it at the same time I was cooking everything else, right? You'd come up with like maybe 10 dishes that you make really well. You have them all prepped and ready, and then when you get orders, you just make those and you put those in bags and send them out the back door. Your kitchen is still operating. The problem is that's not always possible, right? Because the stove can only handle so much, right? But if there's opportunity for that, I think those are some of those income streams that you're talking about that could be on top of what you're already bringing in. That's traditionally what we've done in the restaurant industry. Personally, if you're asking me what I do personally, not in a restaurant, is I do like in-home caterings, so dinner parties and things like that. It's kind of my specialty, so people will call me and say, I want a dinner party for 6 or 8 people at my home, and I want you to do this, 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 and this, and then I can show up and do all that for them. So that's what I do personally on the side, which can be fairly lucrative. I'm to the point now where I can kind of tell people this is what I'm going to charge, and either you're going to do it or you're not, and I don't do it unless I'm going to get that much. I also do some dinners for 2 at Ulridge Cabin. Have you ever heard of Ulridge?
I think Noah's
so
talked about
Stuart
it.
Inn owns Ulridge. He built it. It's this beautiful like Scandinavian style like little home in the middle of the woods out on Ulridge, out there. I can't think of the name of it. Might still be like Town of Wausau, I don't know. And couples can rent it, and it's kind of like a romantic getaway in the woods. It's absolutely beautiful. You're right in the woods, and you like lit up the trees, so at night the trees are lit up. It's beautiful. And the bathroom has like a steam shower and a tub and one of those Japanese toilets, and like it's very cool. I mean, he spent a crazy amount of money on it. And so then people can hire me to come in and cook dinner for two. I just booked one last night. I spent an hour on the phone with this woman who wants me to cook a dinner for her husband's 73rd birthday. So we're going to cook like all of his favorite things, and that's all.
Mhm.
That one's for a set price that I negotiated
Okay.
ahead of time. So that's dinner for two is $500.
And that's low. That's low. You don't have to do a lot of work, but you're getting a higher.
I actually
reward
do
on
have
this
to do a
and-
lot of work
Okay.
for those.
All right.
They kind of the dinner for two always ends up being like I put about 10 or 12 hours of work
Okay.
into it, and I'm kind of
Yeah.
like it's more for fun than
Yeah.
anything. Keeps me sharp.
Uh-huh.
The dinners for six at people's homes are usually lucrative.
Yeah.
And then I also do I cook the Thursday night sunset dinners at
Mhm.
Helene's on Thursdays in the
So,
in the summer.
When you're doing these types of caterings, like you've got a name in the town, so that's
yes,
why you
that's
get those,
blessed. Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
you kind of need that in order to do those things. You can offer it and say it,
I
but
think
like
you need that to get the price that I get.
okay,
I think people trust me and know that when they hire me, they're going to get a very high quality product, and so then it's like, okay, now I
Yep.
understand why he's kind of expensive because you know I have a great reputation. I think anyone could do it as long as they're making good food. I think they'd have to start off a little less and build that reputation.
Yep.
But I've worked really hard on my reputation. I've been in Wausau now not quite 20 years, right? 2006, so 18 years.
Yeah.
And I've worked really hard on my reputation to say, like, people know that when I cook something, it's going to be good, right? So.
okay. So improvement opportunities, things you've seen over the years, like you talk about. There's so many like new things and things that you are already improving, right?
Yeah.
What do you see for improvement opportunities in the future?
Boy, that's a great question that I don't know that I have a really good answer to. As far as just culinary in general, I think efficiency is probably going to be where we have to continue to be more and more efficient to remain competitive, because I think it's going to get to a point where it's going to get even more expensive than it is now to go out to dinner. And I think eventually we'll reach a point where people are going to start kind of going, wow, I don't know if I can justify that. And I think we'll have to look for efficiencies to remain competitive and relevant. I think a lot of people talk about robots. I know it's possible. I know they can do some things. I think it's going to be a fair amount of time before we see them used in any real capacity because of the cost of them. I think you'll see places like McDonald's and corporations use them. I think you'll see them in like some corporate, like cafeteria style dining. I think we'll see some robotics come in there. I don't think it's ever going to come into like that small restaurant where each dish is made. I don't see it. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But I think those are the kinds of things that we're going to have to try to do, because we are finally now paying our line cooks a livable wage, and that's amazing.
But that costs a lot more.
Yep,
to
that
do
makes
it.
everything
Yeah.
cost a little bit more,
Yep.
and so I think we have to train our customers to pay more, which I think the last 5 years has done a really good job of people have started to understand, like, hey, this just costs more.
Well, when
A burger
McDonald's
should
when
not be
McDonald's
$6,
charges
right?
when McDonald's
$10.
charges you $12 for every
A
time
double
you go
quarter
there,
pounder, right?
like then it's much easier to pay $15 or $20 at a
Yeah.
better restaurant.
And in all honesty, a burger should cost $15 to $20. That's how much it should cost. You know, I mean, if you want a business to survive,
Yeah.
and you want
I
them to
guess
pay
so.
their people to actually be able to afford to live,
So
and you want them to make money,
Yeah.
there has to be profit
Yeah.
in there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Or no one's going to do it. Or
Right.
all we're left with then is corporations, right? And I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have the small businesses. So
correct.
I'd
Yeah.
rather go out to eat and pay $20 for a burger to someone who owns the place than go pay $18 at Red Robin, right? And you know, that's me personally. So
Right.
and people will go there and pay that kind of money all day long, and then
Right.
go to a small business and whine
Complain about
that
like,
it's
oh, why is it so
$1.
expensive?
Yeah, like
come
well,
on, man.
come on. They have the same. Actually, their costs are a lot higher because they don't have the
Potentially,
economy
yep.
of scale, right? So Red Robin can buy tomatoes for the country and negotiate a deal on all the tomatoes they need. When you own a small business, you buy them a case at
Yep.
a time from Cisco or Reinhardt or whoever,
Yeah.
and you don't have you don't have the buying power, right? And so you're always paying more than the corporations are. So small businesses it's a lot harder, and
Yeah.
that's why you see a lot of small restaurants fail.
Yeah, and I love the idea of the farm to table. You know,
which that even it costs even more.
it does, because farming is stinking expensive.
Right.
If you're not doing corporate, heavy machinery, massive acres,
Oh yeah,
it is
very little profit.
It is so expensive.
So I always joke, it's all the people who in the middle who make all the money. So the farmer doesn't make any money, and the restaurateur doesn't make any money, and all the people in the middle make all the money, right?
Yep.
So you have the wholesaler and the brokerage and the retailer and all those people, they get 50% markups all the way across the board, and then you get to the restaurant and we get 3% profit, and the farmer gets like 3% profit,
And
that
the
never
trucking
makes
company
any
gets
sense.
$3 a mile.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That
California.
never made any sense to
Yep.
me. Like all the people who do all the work on both ends make the least amount of money, and all the people who really don't do a lot besides carry some debt and carry some risk of product going bad make tons. I've never understood it, but I don't think that's changing unless we all go to the farm to fork model. But then just the farmer and the restaurateur make money. It's not any cheaper because you're only buying one pig at a time, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, the cost and how cheap things are. But I think people are aware of quality versus quantity, and we got to make a lot of food, right? That's how we feed a lot of people. But there's also
I think we have to remember there's a balance, and I was blessed enough a couple years ago to be able to tour you can't call it a farm, it's a pork production facility. It's a farm. They had 18,000 hogs in one building. It was almost half mile long. You had to take a shower and change into their clothing to go into the building.
Yeah, sure.
It's all bioprotected. When you left, you had to take another shower. So it was shower in, shower out. 18,000 hogs in a building. It's a truly incredible production facility. The farmers were amazing people. I was actually incredibly impressed with how clean and how the animals looked very healthy, and they did not. This wasn't like they took us on a tour and showed us what they want. They took us in the building and they're like, "What do you want to see?" And they let us go anywhere we wanted. There was no off limits. There was no like, "Oh, we don't show that stuff." They were happy to show us anything we wanted, and I never once felt like, "Wow, these pigs look miserable." Right? Like, I mean, were they the happiest pigs in the world? Probably not.
But they're only alive for like 2 weeks.
Were they happy enough? Yeah, I mean, they looked good.
What's-
Now, this
what's a happy
facility, took sows, bred them, raised the sows to have babies. The babies were they're feeder pigs, and I always forget, but I think they raise them to 40 pounds and they ship them. So they ship 1,500 pigs a week.
That's crazy.
It is insane.
And
production.
people are eating it all, right? And there's probably 10, 20 of those facilities around.
Oh, there's hundreds of
those facilities.
That was
around.
one in Missouri that we went to. So
Iowa's the big pork producer, isn't it?
Yeah, Iowa, Missouri. Yep.
Yeah.
So the farmer that we talked to, he said, he went like this, and he went, and this is how you get $1 a pound pork. He's
Yeah,
like,
because it's
he's
crazy.
like, if
I go
everyone's
and
willing to pay $5 a pound. We don't need this.
We go to the store and there's a pork tenderloin for $2 a pound.
Yep.
Well, that's the best part.
Not in Porkland. No
So-
one cares about pork tenderloin.
Well, I guess, but like it's $2 a pound. The rest
Everyone
of the thing-
wants bacon.
Yeah, it's correct. Which
So-
they should, and
so-
they should turn the tenderloin into bacon with
Also
my
not-
patented
also not
new.
sausage. It's not
new
patented.
process. It is
Stop
patented.
saying it. You make it sausage. So
No, it's my brand new patented
sausage making. Yeah.
whole
I'm gonna
pig
put my name on
bacon
that patent with
process.
you.
No, that's mine.
So
You're a bad. You have a bad attitude towards it.
So bacon and ribs, the
Oh, yeah.
bellies and the
Yeah,
ribs actually sell for more than the loin. So
Yeah.
if you understand that and you look at if you understand cuts, the loin of the pork is the ribeye and the New York strip in the beef world, right? And the ribs sit underneath that, right? The baby back ribs sit underneath that, right? And right now, what pork producers or pork, not producers, but like the cutters are doing, is they're actually cutting some of the loin off and leaving it on the ribs because the ribs sell for more money than the loin. Now, to put that into
is
perspective,
interesting.
that would be like buying beef ribs, which are just the rib bones with the meat in between them, and cutting off an inch of the ribeye and leaving it on there because you got more money per pound for
you
the
got
ribs
more
than
weight.
you did for the ribeye.
That's crazy.
That's what we're doing in Portland
that's
because
insane.
everyone wants ribs and belly. And that's all they want, and they don't want anything else, right? And ribs and belly sell for more money than the ribeye, right? Which is insane to me. But
Again, I've
is
solved
what it
so
is.
many problems with this new product,
Right.
that I think it'll revolutionize the pork industry
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Well,
Yep.
take it to the pork
You're welcome.
producers. Yeah.
You're welcome. I will mention you
Okay,
as a
great.
naysayer in
Perfect.
my
Please do.
speeches.
Please do.
Okay.
Please do. Yeah.
Ha!
Say,
Okay.
Travis
so-
did not think this was a good idea because I'm just making sausage. I'm not
Yep.
making bacon.
But it's not true. I made bacon out of the whole pig. Okay, so I think we're about done wrapping it up here.
Okay.
So I just want to recap. So you guys at the Tech, you're doing classes for pretty much the whole restaurant industry.
Trying.
The butchering,
So
cooking, a restaurant, and the hospitality side of things.
Yep. So
all of it.
Passion to Plate, 1-year certificate, Passion to Plate butchering, 2-year degree in culinary arts, and that of course has management, which we never talked about. But we're trying to make the chefs, so we're trying to make the managers. So we're trying to give them the management tools to understand costing and labor and structures, and make sure that they can make good purchasing decisions and management decisions. So that the true key here is a chef is not just about cooking. A chef is about profit, right? So the chef is the person in charge to make sure the place makes money, right? So we're trying to give our students that. So yeah, 2-year in that, and then 2-year in hospitality and tourism. So
Okay.
yeah. And the hospitality tourism is all online, by the way. You can take that entire program online. So we have students in like New York and like Arizona or something that take our online classes for hospitality.
And tell us, how do we get in touch with? How do they connect with NTC if they're interested in the program,
Yeah.
or how do
So
they
you
buy
can-
some butchering stuff or any of those things?
So follow us on Facebook. Just follow the NTC main page on Facebook. That's where we advertise for the butcher block when we're going to be open. We're open a few times a semester. So basically, like think about we process lamb, we make all the lamb products, and we sell it. And we process pig, we make all the pig products, and we sell it. And we kind of do that throughout. And then I had an extra sale this year just to kind of clean out the freezer and sell all the extra sausages and stuff that we made, right? So we're open 3 or 4 times each semester, 2 or 3, depending on volume and students and that kind of stuff. So now next semester we do beef. So we do pork, lamb, sausage, bacon, ham, all that stuff in the fall, and then we do all the beef work. So summer sausage, snack sticks, pastrami, corned beef, and then all of the retail beef cuts are all in the spring. So that's coming up there. So if they're interested, they can call or go online, make an appointment with NTC. You'd want to go with a student services, like an advisor. They can advise you through the programs, tell you what it would entail to sign up, that kind of stuff. For the Passion Plate, they'd also help you figure out how to get that grant stuff applied. That all goes through financial aid. I don't deal with any of that. So student services is your friend for all of that. If they want to see when we're open, just the general NTC Facebook page, we have advertisements for Butcher Block on there, and then Spoons has its own website that gets updated when we're going to be
once
open.
a century. I think.
Yeah, the updating on that. We could do a better job on that. We could do a better job on that.
Yeah. Okay, and then I don't know if you want to, but do you want to shoot anything out there for your your events or your private things?
Oh, so
that you do?
my own
if somebody wants to
personal stuff.
have
Yeah,
you
you
come
can
cook for 'em?
contact me. So my email is cheftravisteska@gmail.com. So shoot me an email. Lots of people actually usually find me on Facebook and send me random messages and say hey, I've heard of you and I want to know if you'd want to cook this dinner thing, and then we can go from there. So usually the date is the hardest part, right? Finding a date that I'm available and that if you want to have a dinner party for 8 people, you gotta have it. I'll coordinate everyone to come together. It's always a little more complicated. That was one question we never talked about. Charity work. So both Noah, my husband, and I donate dinners to various charities. They auction them off and then we host them at our home.
Right.
So that's kind of how we stay involved in our community and give back a little bit.
Awesome.
So I don't have thousands of dollars to give away, but they sell dinners at our house for usually between $2,000 and $5,000 a piece. So it's a great way for a charity to bring in some extra money for them, and then we host it. And the Boys and Girls Club always sells 1 or 2 a year, and we do a couple other ones randomly. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
Women's
very cool.
Community is another one that we always support. So
Mhm.
if you're interested in me coming to cook for you, then you'd want to contact me there. And then I also have the Helene's dinners in the summer. If you're interested in those, you want to contact Olivia, who's the owner of Helene's Hilltop Orchard in Merrill, on her Instagram. and then she can put you on the list. We generally sell those dinners out very quickly.
Man, we're gonna have to put a lot of notes
We generally sell those out very
in
quickly.
this. Podcast.
But
17 links.
you can always contact her
4-page book.
and put your name on the email list, so at least you get a
Awesome.
shot at it. So
Yeah. Very cool.
Perfect.
Awesome, man.
All
Well, I
right.
really appreciate it. Thanks for coming and talking.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks,
Thanks for
Travis.
having me. It was fun.
Okay.
Awesome.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the links for our guests in the comments section on YouTube and Facebook. Drop a like, follow, comment, share with somebody. If you have questions, make sure to ask. We're always here to help. And remember, friends don't let friends suck.